So, allow me to begin this right off the bat by saying, hi, my name is Flannery. I am just a avid fan of, well, I can't say the comics because I struggle reading comics, but DC and Marvel and general stuff. And today we're about to have a very interesting conversation regarding bisexual Superman with, well, a bisexual awakener himself. And by that I mean he caused many people back in like the 90s and 2000s to, realize they were gay or bisexual. Anyhow, basically, you know what? I'm just going to put it this way. Everyone, please give a round of applause for Dean Cain as soon as he hops into the... Excuse me. Click general chat. The one that shows... Ah, perfect.
Yours is muted, so that's not.
Yep. One moment. Oops, I didn't realize I still had this on my TV because I wanted to hear my, oh. Hey. So let me switch this over real quick so that they can hear you. Oh, are you not hearing me? I am so sorry about that. Voice and video. Yeah, no, it should be... Right, I know it. Yes, only the... Okay, can you hear me now? Hello? Yabe. My... this is not... Okay, let's see. Alright, so it should be showing my voice. Input, it's showing the right thing. Alright, so... Oh, I know what was doing it. My apologies, Dean. I know what was going on. Because... No, you're good. You're good. In fact, one moment so that I can switch on over to... Just so that it's a little bit more of a face-to-face. Also, thank you, Mazumi, too, for the follow. I'm going to actually go ahead and do all the follow stuff after the segment. But yeah, no, it wasn't your fault. It was, I kind of didn't consider the fact that since I'm streaming, my microphone might not be able to be picked up by Discord. That was a bit of an... That might have been an oversight on my part. But, 1 second, so I can... Yeah, that should be the thing I need. And now people should be able to hear you. Can you say something for the chat?
I'm speaking now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, and the chat should be able to.
Brilliant.
Alright, so... Okay, so technical difficulties aside, having chewed a few minutes of the time. First off, I want to actually say... Oh, hold up. Let me switch over. Do you want to do this with video, or do you want to just have your voice? Video, so people can see your handsome face.
All right. Get all that stuff working, I guess. I've never done a video on Discord.
So
make sure I can do this correctly.
You're fine. If you take a look, if you're doing it on a computer at least, there's an icon. Okay, so if you go ahead and...
Video, so I'm turning on camera. Make sure it's the correct camera.
I'm going to flip over to the waiting screen for a second so I can do this right. Studio mode. Let's see. Video focus. Oh, thank you very much, Dean. And let me go ahead and... There we go.
Brilliant.
All right. So, again, I want to thank you for offering your time today. I know this is a bit out of your way for what you would normally do, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you.
I think it's important to foster dialogue with everybody all the time, and I am more than happy to do so.
No, I certainly agree, and I certainly understand that. That's kind of the point of why I started this channel in the first place, to create a dialogue and figure out when there are miscommunications between people, what is the root cause of it. So this
lack of communication. I think part of it is people don't talk to each other enough, especially when they have differing viewpoints. And I really think we should talk to each other when we have differing viewpoints, because that's the way you solve issues.
So, do you want to go ahead and give your side of basically everything that's sort of happened to get to this point?
Well, I made it very clear how I felt about everything. I wrote an op-ed in Real Clear Politics that explained my position very clearly. I just didn't think that I was responding to. I was actually supposed to be on a morning news show, which I do quite often, and I was supposed to talk about the Biden administration's basically having the IRS monitor every account with $600 plus in the United States, which I think is tremendous government overreach, and double the number of IRS agents and things like that. So that was what I was originally going to talk about. I went to sleep, woke up in Spain, where I have another home, and there had been this whole thing about Superman. The headline was, Superman is coming out as bi, and I read the article and I saw everything that was about it. And then I explained my position, which is I didn't think, because they were calling it a bold new direction, and I didn't think it was a very bold new direction. I don't have a problem with Superman's son, John Kent, being bi or any of that at all whatsoever. So I gave my opinion on it not being bold. I thought it would be bold if they took on, fighting for LGBTQ plus rights in places where they throw people off buildings for the perceived offense of homosexuality or anything like that. So I thought that would be brave. I didn't think making another superhero in 2021 gay or bi was particularly groundbreaking. I thought it was more jumping on the bandwagon. And that's what I spoke about. And then it turned into some misleading headlines and a lot of people throwing hate. And that's sort of how it all came to pass, in my opinion. What's your opinion?
My personal viewpoint is somewhat in line with yours. I did get that read from it when I had ended up hearing what you said. I understood what you meant. However, after thinking on it for the past couple of days, I kind of understand why people misunderstood you.
Misunderstood me or misunderstood the headline?
I think both, actually. I do think that the headlines had a large part, but I think... So, you say that you're fine with it as just in general. Your criticism is on the characterization of it being brave, but for a lot of the people who were upset, true. But for a lot of the people who were upset by it, I think the problem there is you've got really like two groups beyond the people who just didn't listen to you and just read the headlines. But and I will acknowledge I think that one's probably about 70% of them, mind you. I'm more than fine with acknowledging that. So I'm more focusing on the 30% remaining. I think it comes down to two parts. One is the fact of when you said what you did, it was more along the lines of people were probably interpreting it along the lines of the things that you're saying makes it. While on the surface you weren't being critical of him being bi, it made it sound like, as far as John was concerned, your preference would have been towards, not including the representation at all. Even though that's not what you said. I understand. I know that's not what you said. I'm clarifying what it would have come across.
Or what I meant.
Yeah.
Or what I meant at all.
But
there's nothing in there that should have suggested that.
I understand, but it is one of those things where people are hearing a response to something like this, and for the most part, the general reaction is either in favor or against, and people tend to take against a part into being against the whole. And also vice versa, favor for a part, favor for a whole. And you're just going, and that was just a matter of the circumstances, which leads into the second. Unfortunately, this was also, and I said this in my initial tweet towards you, part of this is the fact that it was said on Fox News, where let's be honest, most of the people who put any statement regarding LGBT folk on Fox News, it's generally antagonistic towards them, even if that's not what your message was. I'm not saying always. I'm saying generally.
Oh, okay, I think that's an unfair generalization because I know the people who work at Fox News very well, the people that I'm on air with all the time, and I don't know a single one that is anti-gay. Not one.
Mm.
Not one who doesn't believe in full rights and representation and for the LGBTQ plus community. I don't know a single person who's against that. There are some people who I imagine who are extremely religious who might feel that way that I'm not aware of, but I've never heard it said to me, never heard it suggested to me, never heard anybody say anything anti-LGBTQ plus, anti-gay at all on air or off air. I've never heard it. So I would, if I did, I would say something against it because I don't believe in that.
And I completely believe you when you say that. Unfortunately, I do think the public perception, though, is, and I think you can agree with this, a lot of the times perception ends up overweighing reality when it comes to a lot of stuff.
I agree with that, which is exactly why I'm sitting here with you.
Yep, nope, and I completely get that. And again, I am grateful. The issue just happens to be the misunderstandings in the end just come down from, frankly, stuff that could be avoided, but sadly it's not always going to be possible. And once you get a few people who are upset, well, there's a concept that I think you might actually agree with in this circumstance at the very least. Basically, hate and anger and all that, it really does work like a actual disease. It spreads a lot easier than it can be taken care of. And, it washes over the population. Once everybody's gotten angry at a certain thing, it'll eventually die down until, their lack of caring goes away and they start caring about the topic again. And unfortunately, that seems to be what you happen to be a victim to in this case. A lot of people ended up hearing the 70% who didn't even listen get angry. And then from the 30% who did, let's say half of them had ended up having a misunderstanding. It wound up being just a perfect storm in, well, I guess against your favor in this case.
Well, yeah. See, what happens is that people don't pay attention. They jump on the bandwagon. They get offended. I don't feel myself. I'll never classify myself as a victim in any way, shape, or form. I think the people who jumped on this and saying that I'm anti-gay or that I have a problem with my son, not even my son, the fictional character's son being bi, or I don't have a problem with any of that. Never did, never will. Mm-hmm. It's just that it's not that bold and brave in 2021 to have a superhero play gay or bisexual. That was literally my whole mm-hmm. point on that. Because look, the first time I played a gay character was in 2001, where I was told by every representative in my whole organization, don't do it. Don't play gay. People are going to think you're gay. It's going to tarnish your image. It's not the popular thing to do right now. Blah, 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 blah. I didn't listen then, and I don't listen to the haters now. I do what I believe is right in my heart and what I think is, honest and fair and straightforward. And I don't hold punches. I've played gay 3 or 4 times at least in films, and I've received a GLAAD award for the love of God. But then you go and speak to a different group where somebody and GLAAD attacked me for speaking to a group when I was doing another film, and that was part of our publicity tour, was to talk to this group. And I like to engage everybody. I'm speaking to you right now. I have no idea what your sexual preference is. It doesn't concern me, or whatever it is. I support it. You're an adult. You can do whatever you want, as long as you're not hurting, an unwilling participant or a child. Then that's your business, and rock and roll. I have a blast. Wouldn't be that you and I could sit and play games all day. You could be in. I noticed on the server, I play World of Warcraft with my son. That's why I have Discord. And I saw some World of Warcraft stuff in there. Maybe it wasn't on yours. I don't know what it was, but I wouldn't make a difference. We'd play every day for 3 hours, and we'd be awesome. And I wouldn't think twice about it. If you were my next door neighbor or the guy down the street or whatever it is, it doesn't make a difference to me. Injustice and holding people down and being oppressive is something I would always have and always will fight against. But I will also voice my opinion unapologetically to anybody and have a conversation. That's why I'm glad we're having this conversation. I don't see us disagreeing on anything unless you want to tell me what you disagree with, in which case I'm more than willing to have a conversation. I welcome it.
Mm-hmm. My only disagreement, and I should phrase this a little carefully because I don't want to get canceled myself. Uh,
Well, what you shouldn't have fear of getting canceled.
oh,
That's a
I
good
know, I know.
point. You know
But
what I mean? That shouldn't exist for anybody.
it's honestly, I guess we could have a conversation about cancel culture another time, and that's definitely one that I would love to have. But as far as this
Certainly.
goes,
I'm
my
vehemently against. Couldn't tell.
yeah. So my general thought is when it comes down to the situation of because this really comes down to people mistook it for being against LGBT representation. I know you already made your stance more than clear on that. But when it comes down to it, do you at least understand why people are definitely wanting more representation in the modern media? Because I understand that as far as you see, there are a lot of like different orientations and trans people and so forth being represented. But can you understand from the perspective of minority groups who don't really get to see themselves all that often in the media that they like, getting to see at least, more and more?
Listen, if you want to see someone represented for whatever group you are in, one wants to identify, rock and roll. I get that. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. Create your own character, write your own story, make your own show, do anything. I mean, I make shows all the time. I put all kinds of different characters and people in there, not for the sake of diversity, but for the sake of telling a real story. And sometimes that maybe that is the story. If that's the story, great. But I mean, even if you go back to Lois and Clark, that was done 1993. Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman. Lois was the first name on the list. Very strong, independent woman, right? The next two characters were Clark and Superman. They were the number two build characters. It wasn't. We didn't do it for the sake of we need to make a show about a strong, independent woman. That wasn't. That was. It just happened to be that case, and her character drove the show. And that would, if you try to break it down and make that the point, okay, fine, but that wasn't the point. That was just that happened to be the circumstances, and I thought it worked great. It wasn't done for diversity's sake. It was done for the sake of telling a story. And I think anybody who feels like they're underrepresented or misrepresented, tell your own story. Right, today you can do a story on. You can take your iPhone, you can shoot anything you want to, you can edit it on iMovie, and you can pop it on YouTube, and the whole world can see it. And I think that's amazing. And I think that if people feel like they don't have a voice or they're not represented, tell your story, and I'd love to see it.
All right. So I do have a follow up for that, but then we'll have to start wrapping up because running low on time.
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Gotta
You're
go to
fine.
work, man.
Yeah, I
I
know.
gotta go to work.
I know. But as far as this goes, while I do agree with your general stance of if you want to see something, make it, and it's a lot easier to do that now than ever before. But
Agreed.
do you at least understand why it might be important in these big works that are already out there that already have the viewer base? And not everybody is capable of creating. Unfortunately, it's still a talent in the end.
Sure.
Do you can you at least understand why, for example, why it might be important for some people to be able to see Jonathan Kent in this case being bisexual and being able to help further normalize, because there are a lot of people who still unfortunately live in households where being anything less than the straightest of straight person is enough to get you abused or kicked out,
No, I think
unfortunately.
that's reprehensible. I think
Mhm.
it's abhorrent and reprehensible, and my heart breaks for anybody in that situation. So sure, I can understand why someone might find that character and go, yes, here's part of my story, and I feel more empowered. Of course.
Perfect. I think with that, I think that helps at least clear up a lot of the concerns people do have when it comes down to all of this. Now, how well this spreads, how well this ends up, getting shown to people so that they can see that, the misunderstandings that the headlines helped create and that people not paying attention ended up getting from the Fox interview. I can't make any promises there, but
Let me posit this though. I think the people who wrote those headlines did so knowingly, trying to create division. I
oh,
really and truly and honestly believe that, and I think that's a problem.
my personal view isn't so much that it was trying to create division, more so that it was trying to create something attention grabbing and snappy without care for what the consequences were. I'd argue
Okay. We're pretty close. We're pretty close there, but
it's sort of the
I think
difference
they did
between.
it on purpose. You don't write a headline. You don't write a headline without having some intent behind it. I believe that. Being in this business for as long as I have, and knowing the people who were involved in PR and all that stuff, I just don't believe they did it. I do agree that what you said is certainly valid, but I think even maybe that's the reason by creating the problem, they get the attention. So it may be certainly a bit of both, but they wanted to create that tension. They wanted to make that an issue. We're talking about it, which I think is great, is that we're talking about it. So maybe they got the attention they wanted, perhaps.
Perhaps.
Regardless of who they steamrolled or tried to steamroll in the process.
In the end, all we can see is what the end results of all of this end up being. Give it a month and no one's going to remember it.
I was going to say, but right now the end result is you and I are talking.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good result.
Oh yeah, definitely. And the fact that you have been so open on this and, with clarifying, I think that'll do a lot of good for you moving forward as well, since, let's be honest, controversy is bad, but in the end, it still gets people looking towards, more eyes on your content in the end, one way or another.
True, but I have zero. That for me, that is zero motivation for speaking my mind. It really is.
I know.
Because it's certainly, if you weigh mine out, it's certainly not to the positive by any stretch of the imagination. The positive thing, the way to do that would be just to get go along to get along and try to curdle favor and sit there and pander to a base, which I am unwilling to do to any base. I'm going to speak freely and speak my mind, and the more free critical thinkers I think that we have out there, and more people having conversations, I think that's the important thing.
And while I do disagree with a lot of the stuff that you say on your account, unfortunately, it's bound to happen. We have completely different worldviews on stuff. But while I disagree with a lot of what you, that'll have to be a future convo since you're running down to the last 5 minutes. But my general view is, at the very least, I do respect that you don't seem to pander. You don't seem to be a pundit for one side or the other. You've got your own views. You don't feel like either side truly represents yourself. And whether I agree or disagree, I respect the fact that you're willing to be open about what you believe.
And likewise, my friend.
Well, either way, I should let you get a couple minutes so that you're not rushing out the door. So thank you again for having come on.
You still got 4 minutes here. Any questions you have, I'm more than willing in the next 4 minutes to run through, because I've got it down to the moment as far as when I show up.
All right. So as far as this goes, I was planning on using this when the conversation started, but unfortunately, technical difficulties. So,
we'll
Superman, I've noticed that every time you've gone onto a conversation with somebody, every interview's always been with either Lois Lane or Clark Kent. Now tell me, is there any friendship or other form of conflict of interest that the public should know about?
Between Lois Lane and Clark Kent?
Myself? Yeah, between yourself, Lois Lane, and Clark Kent, seeing as they're the only ones you've given interviews to.
It's a confusing trio. Yeah, I think Superman's showing favoritism. I think there's no doubt about it. But that's the only way you can keep his secret identity. That's the only way.
Oh yeah, end up spending too many interviews with people, and eventually someone's gonna realize that it's just you without the glasses.
I mean, right? At least we've made fun of that on the show back when I think Tempest was the character. Just took him off and was like, "Duh." So I thought that was pretty clever.
Oh yeah, no, it's a good joke.
You gotta make fun of yourself.
Oh yeah, it's superheroes. If you take it too seriously, people are gonna stop caring. But
exactly.
One thing that I was asked by a friend to ask you about. So
sure.
This is a bit off topic from all of this, but what was it like when you were working on Rat Race? What was your experience like there?
Rat Race was amazing. It was a big film, lots of really funny characters on it. And for me, almost every shot that I was in involved a helicopter. So it was kind of just crazy. We're sitting in this little fake pool hot tub thing, and they're like, all right, and cue the helicopter, and then action. And all of a sudden, freaking helicopter comes flying over the top, and so it seemed like that was every scene. It was great fun. Everybody was super super nice and funny, and comedy is a tough thing to do. It's a tough job. I was more in the drama stuff, and so the comedy is it's always a little scary. I had a great time on it. It was fun. I think the movie is still fun to watch. It's just a bunch of goofy, crazy stuff, and I had a really good time out in the middle of I don't know where Palmdale or the desert, someplace here in California nearby. But it was just a couple of days and good fun.
All right. Uh, and is it okay if I ask one final question before you gotta go?
Yes.
So, how does it feel getting to see, now that you've been in other works and getting to see other people basically pick up the mantle of Superman since you've left? What's that like for you, getting to watch the torch get passed down to more and more people?
Torch get passed and passed and passed. Well, I'm 55 years old. It's you're going to get to see that. I'm glad I got to live this long so far. I think everybody has done. I mean, every actor that I've seen so far take up the mantle, whether it's even Supergirl or I thought Welling was great in Smallville. He did a great job. He didn't wear the suit much and be Superman, and but I got to go on the show and have a lot of fun with them, and I think he did a great job. I didn't watch all 900 seasons of it, but I watched a few episodes and they did a really nice job. Supergirl, I think Melissa has done a fantastic job with the character. Supergirl's got a lot of there's so many characters on Supergirl. I get lost.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many. Everybody's a superhero and so on and so forth. But she's got the right demeanor. She's fantastic. I think she did a great job. Henry Cavill's Superman, I think he's a wonderful actor and did a great job with it. The Zack Snyder universe for Superman, I think, is a little dark. I like to see Superman more as a character of hope and light and having a little fun with it, But maybe it's because Christopher Reeve was my Superman, and that's sort of where I see. For me, I know it began elsewhere, but for me, it began with Christopher Reeve. I saw the George Reeves versions on TV, but the Christopher Reeve version of Superman was the one that I've always fallen in love with. It's the one I felt like I played my Superman character off of his. But as good as Henry Cavill is, that universe is just a darker world for Superman, and I prefer to see him in a lighter world, honestly. But I think everybody that has done it so far has been fantastic. They've got that kindness to them. They've got that ability to sort of be very earnest and honest, and I think that's a tremendously important part of playing the character.
Well, thank you for that, and thank you for having come on. Before you get running over to work, is there any final memes that you want to end up sharing? Basically, if final memes in this case being sort of picture the stereotypical movie sequence where the bad guys are basically asking final words.
What is asking for my final words?
Yep. What is the final thing that you want to say before you head out?
I want to say that I'm glad we had this conversation, and I want to continue to foster dialogue between people, especially with divergent viewpoints, so that we can find common ground and stop all of this division that goes on, that some people seem to be pushing and profiting from, however, whether it's financially or otherwise. I just think that that's ridiculous. So I want to open lines of communication between people of different viewpoints. I want people to be able to have respect for other people's opinions, even when you don't agree 100%. Like, I'll respect your opinion if you disagree, and hopefully vice versa. And I think that's where we start to heal, not just this country, but the whole world.
Well, thank you for that, and well, I'll let you get going. And if you ever want to be on again, just send me a message.
Deal. Well, I follow you now, so. And I didn't follow you because you had a whole bunch of followers or because of, trying to promote, my brand. I followed you because you made a comment that was fair, insightful, and direct, and not being, you weren't being, you weren't insulting me. You weren't being demeaning. You were fair and honest and straightforward, and I respect that. And I block like crazy on Twitter because people are out of their minds. I'll block people who say offensive things. I'll block people who as soon as they start with things like I say I think it should be green, and they're like, you're the worst Superman ever. You're gonna get blocked. because that's an ad hominem. And if you want to stay on subject, great. But if you want to start picking on how I look or how I played a character or any immutable characteristics, come on. I mean, that's I get people picking on me because I'm Asian, and my name changed when I was 4 because I got adopted. They're like, you try to whitewash your name. I'm like, are you out of your mind? I was 4 years old and I got adopted. Changed my name. I didn't see this coming. So that sort of stuff is crazy. But I like us having a dialogue, and I'll come on again because you're fair and honest, and maybe some of the people who in your circle will react negatively to us to having a civil conversation, and I hope they don't. But if they want to throw some questions in, I'll be happy to answer those too.
All right. Well, thank you, and I'll
Next
let you
time.
get going. I
I
hope you enjoy
appreciate
your
it.
day.
Be well. You too. Cheers.
Cheers. All right. So one moment while I go ahead and do.